Officer Threll stared at the blinking red warning lights across his command console. His slender blue fingers moved quickly over the controls, but nothing changed. The small scout ship continued to drift deeper into uncharted space, its main, engines dead and auxiliary power fading. "Status report," Threll said to the ship's computer, his voice steady despite the growing fear in his chest. "Main reactor, failed. Backup power, 23% and falling. Life support, limited to 14 days at current usage. Navigation, offline. Communications, emergency beacon active. Range reduced to nearest 300 light-years." The computer responded in its flat voice. Threll closed his large black eyes and took a slow breath. The Coalition had strict rules about deep space missions. Everyone who signed up knew the risks. If you went beyond normal patrol routes and something went wrong, no rescue would come. It was simple math to them. The resources needed for deep space rescue missions were too great to justify saving a single life. The ship floated silently through the void, stars shining coldly through the viewport. Threll had been mapping an unexplored sector when a strange energy surge had fried his ship's main systems. Now he was just another piece of space debris drifting between the stars. "Computer, send another distress call. Full emergency protocol," Threll ordered, though he knew it was probably pointless. "Transmitting distress signal on all Coalition frequencies," the computer confirmed. Threll got up from his seat and moved to the small living area of his scout ship. The room, normally lit with soft blue light, now glowed with the red of emergency lighting. He picked up a water pouch and drank slowly, trying to make his supplies last. For 3 days, Threll kept busy by running diagnostics and attempting repairs. On the 4th day, he admitted to himself that the damage was too severe. Without proper tools and replacement parts, the ship would never fly again. "Computer, record log entry," Threll said, sitting back at the command console. "Recording. Scout log, day 4 of emergency status. All repair attempts have failed. I am now officially declaring this vessel lost. Per Coalition protocol, I will maintain life support as long as possible, while continuing to broadcast distress signals. I hold no expectations of rescue at this distance from established routes." Threll paused, then added, "If any Coalition vessel recovers this log, please inform my family on Tressia that I completed my duty to the end." As days passed, Threll developed a routine. He would wake, check the ship's failing systems, eat a small meal, record a log entry, and then spend hours staring at the stars or reading from his small collection of books. Sometimes he would exercise in the limited space to keep his body from weakening too quickly. By the 10th day, the temperature on the ship had dropped significantly as the environmental systems struggled to function on minimal power. Threll wore his full uniform and wrapped himself in emergency blankets to stay warm. The lights were dimmed to save energy, leaving most of the ship in shadows. "Computer, how much power remains?" Threll asked, his breath visible in the cold air. "Power reserves at 9%. Estimated time until complete system failure, 76 hours. Threll nodded silently. 3 more days. He had known this was coming, but hearing it stated so plainly made it real. He thought about his homeworld, about the family he would never see again, about the career that had led him to this lonely end. That night, as Threll tried to sleep, the ship drifted through a field of cosmic dust, creating small pinging sounds as particles hit the hull. It sounded almost like rain to his ears, reminding him of storms on Tressia. He found the sound comforting, a natural phenomenon in the emptiness of space. On day 12, with power down to 5%, Threll made a decision. He would shut down everything except the emergency beacon and life support. It might buy him an extra day or two, though he knew it changed nothing in the end. "Computer, deactivate all non-essential systems," he ordered. "Warning. This action will disable internal sensors, most lighting, and temperature control. Confirm?" "Confirmed," Threll said. The ship went almost completely dark. Only the soft glow of the life support indicator and the rhythmic blinking of the emergency beacon broke the darkness. Threll sat wrapped in blankets, alone with his thoughts in the quiet ship. He pulled out a small metal object from his pocket. Family token given to him by his mother when he first joined the Coalition fleet. It was supposed to bring good luck. Threll smiled sadly at the thought. On day 13, Threll began to feel the effects of low oxygen levels. His thinking became sluggish, and he found himself drifting in and out of consciousness. He no longer felt the cold. In his more lucid moments, he recorded final log entries, speaking of his acceptance of his fate and expressing gratitude for the life he had lived. "Computer," Threll said weakly. "How long until life support failure?" "Life support systems will fail in approximately 18 hours, the computer replied, its voice seeming distant to Threll's ears. Threll nodded and closed his eyes. He had done everything by the book. He had followed all protocols. He had been a good officer. Now, all that remained was to face the end with dignity. As he drifted into unconsciousness again, Threll dreamed of flying through the stars without a ship, free and peaceful. In his dream, a bright light appeared in the distance, growing larger as it approached. Part of him wondered if this was what death looked like, a bright light coming to take him away. What Threll couldn't know was that the emergency beacon's signal, weak as it was, had reached the edges of an unexplored system. There, a ship unlike any in the Coalition fleet had picked up the faint cry for help. And unlike the Coalition, its crew didn't believe in leaving anyone behind, not even an alien stranded in the depths of space. The last thing Threll's failing sensors recorded was a large vessel approaching, its design unknown to Coalition databases. As consciousness slipped away, Threll never heard the computer's final alert. Warning, unknown vessel approaching. Configuration does not match Coalition. Records, attempting to establish communication. Captain Mark Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, the newest warship in Earth's growing fleet. The massive vessel cut through the darkness of space with quiet power, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. This was the Defender's first mission beyond the borders of human space, a show of strength and capability to the wider galactic community. "Status report," Wilson said, his voice calm and steady. "All systems normal, Captain," replied First Officer Rivera. From her station, "We're maintaining course through Sector 47. No significant contacts on sensors." Wilson nodded. The mission was simple. Patrol the border of human space, collect data on this largely unmapped region, and return home. Earth was still new to interstellar politics, having joined the galactic stage only 30 years ago. Most advanced species viewed humans as primitive newcomers, barely worth diplomatic attention. "Sir," called Lieutenant Parker from the communication station, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm picking up something strange." Wilson walked over to Parker's station. "What kind of strange, Lieutenant?" "A signal, sir. Very weak. It's not matching any known Earth pattern." Parker adjusted his controls. "It's repeating the same sequence over and over. Could be natural phenomenon," Rivera suggested. "Space has plenty of weird signals." Parker shook his head. "No, this is definitely artificial. The pattern is too regular, too structured." Wilson thought for a moment. "Can you determine the source?" "Working on it, sir." Parker's fingers moved quickly over his console. "It's coming. From deep in uncharted space, at least 3 days' journey at our current speed." Wilson turned to the main view screen, which showed nothing but stars. Earth Command had been clear about the mission parameters. Stay within the designated patrol route, avoid contact with unknown vessels, and do not engage in rescue operations without proper authorization. Investigating a strange signal in uncharted space wasn't part of the plan. "Sir," Parker said quietly, "I think it's a distress call." The bridge fell silent. Wilson felt all eyes turn to him. "Are you certain?" he asked. "Not completely, but the pattern matches what we know about emergency beacons. It's just not human." Parker looked up at his captain. If someone's in trouble out there, Wilson returned to his command chair and sat down, weighing his options. Earth Command would order them to continue their patrol and report the signal for future investigation. That was the safe play. That was protocol. How long has the signal been active? Based on degradation? Wilson asked. Chief Engineer Adams spoke up from her station. Based on the signal strength and pattern decay, I'd estimate at least 2 weeks, sir. 2 weeks. Whoever sent that signal had been waiting for help for 2 weeks. Wilson made his decision. Navigator, plot a course to the signal source, maximum speed. Rivera stepped closer to Wilson's chair. Sir, Earth Command was specific about... I know what Command said, number 1. Wilson's voice was firm. But we're not leaving someone to die out here just because of protocol. If that was one of our ships, we'd want someone to respond. He turned to face her. Besides, this is exactly the kind of goodwill Earth needs to establish with the galactic community. Rivera nodded slowly. Course plotted, sir. 3 days at maximum speed. Execute, Wilson ordered. The Defender changed course, its powerful engines pushing it deeper into uncharted space. For 3 days, the human warship raced toward the fading signal. The crew worked in shifts, analyzing the distress call and preparing for all possibilities. They could be flying into a trap, or they could find nothing but floating debris. The unknown made everyone tense. Signal source will be in visual range. In 5 minutes, Parker announced on the 3rd day. Wilson stood from his chair. All hands to alert status, medical team on standby. Let's see what we've got out there. The main screen switched to forward view, showing empty space at first. Then, as the ship's sensors adjusted, a small object appeared. A vessel, but tiny compared to the Defender. Can we identify it? Wilson asked. Running it through our database now, sir, Rivera replied. It matches Coalition design. A scout ship typically carries a crew of 1 or 2. Wilson frowned. The Coalition was one of the oldest and most advanced groups in known space. They viewed humans as barely evolved primates unworthy of serious attention. They were also known for their strict policies, including their infamous no-rescue protocol for deep space operations. Life signs? Wilson asked quickly. The science officer, Lieutenant Bell, worked at her station. Very faint, sir. 1 life form, barely registering. Their ship is almost completely without power. Life support is failing. Radiation levels? Asked Chief Engineer Adams. Safe for approach, Bell confirmed. Wilson nodded. Bring us alongside. Prepare boarding team, medical, engineering, and security. I want that survivor on our ship in the next 15 minutes. Sir, Rivera said quietly. Coalition law states that their personnel are not to be removed from their vessels without proper authorization, even in emergency situations. Wilson looked at his first officer with steady eyes. We're not in Coalition space, and that pilot is dying. Earth law says we help. That takes priority on my ship. The massive human warship moved carefully alongside the tiny scout vessel. In the cold darkness of deep space, the Defender's lights illuminated the damaged alien craft, revealing scorch marks and damage across its hull. Boarding team ready, sir, reported the security chief. Wilson nodded. Proceed. As the boarding team prepared to cross to the alien vessel, Wilson stared at the small ship on the screen. He didn't know who was inside or what problems this rescue might create with the Coalition. He only knew that leaving someone to die alone in the emptiness of space was unthinkable to him and to humanity as a whole. We're coming for you, he whispered to the unknown pilot. Just hold on a little longer. Dr. Anna Hayes checked her medical kit one last time as she stood in the Defender's airlock with the rescue team. 6 people in total, 2 medical staff, 2 engineers, and 2 security officers, all wearing sealed environmental suits. Nobody knew what conditions they would find inside the alien vessel. Remember, Lieutenant Foster, the security lead, reminded them, we don't know if the Coalition pilot is conscious or how they'll react to humans. Stay alert. Dr. Hayes nodded. In her 5 years as chief medical officer on various Earth ships, she had treated dozens of alien species but never a Coalition member. The Coalition kept to themselves, considering most other species, especially humans, as primitive and unworthy of their attention. Docking complete, came the captain's voice through their comms. You are clear to proceed. The airlock cycled, and the team moved through the connecting tube into the Coalition scout ship. Immediately, they were struck by the cold. Their suit sensors showed the temperature was barely above freezing, and oxygen levels were dangerously low. Life supports almost completely failed, Engineer Patel noted, checking readings on his equipment. Power reserves at less than 2%. Hayes looked around the darkened ship. It was small, clearly designed for 1 or 2 crew members on short missions. Red emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the alien control panels and living space. Life sign detector shows our survivor is in the forward compartment, Hayes said, moving carefully through the ship. The team followed, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. They found the coalition officer slumped in a chair near the main controls. The alien was humanoid but clearly not human. Blue-tinted skin, a slightly elongated head, and 4-fingered hands. He wore what appeared to be a uniform, though the color was hard to determine in the red emergency lighting. Hayes knelt beside the unconscious alien, running her medical scanner over his body. He's alive, but barely. Severe hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. We need to move fast. Is it safe to move him? Foster asked. We don't have a choice, Hayes replied. He'll die if we leave him here. Engineer Patel was examining the ship's systems. This vessel is beyond repair with what we have on hand. The main power core is completely fried. Can we recover the ship's logs? Foster asked. Might tell us what happened. I'll try, said the second engineer, Rodriguez. But I'll need to hook up our portable power unit just to access the computer. While Rodriguez worked on the computer systems, Hayes and her medical assistant prepared the alien for transport. They carefully placed him on a stretcher, attaching portable life support equipment to stabilize him. Captain, Foster called over the comm. We've found one survivor, critical condition. Request immediate medical evacuation. Understood, Wilson replied. Medbay is standing by. As they prepared to move the alien, Rodriguez called out from the computer station. I've got partial access to the logs. Last entry was 13 days ago. Looks like they had some kind of power surge that fried their main systems. 13 days, Hayes said quietly. He's been drifting out here alone for 13 days. She checked her scanner again. It's a miracle he's still alive. With careful movements, they carried the stretcher back through the small ship to the airlock. Hayes noticed a small metal object clutched tightly in the alien's hand, some kind of personal item that seemed important to him. She made sure it remained with him as they moved. Once aboard the Defender, they rushed the alien to the medical bay. The well-lit, warm environment was a stark contrast to the cold, dark scout ship they had just left. The medical team had already set up a containment area, not for quarantine, but to create an environment that might be more suitable for a coalition species. Get me the xenobiology database, Hayes ordered as they transferred the alien to a medical bed. I need everything we have on coalition physiology. Medical assistant Lynn quickly brought up the information on a screen. Not much here, Doctor. The coalition doesn't share medical data. Then we'll work with what we have, Hayes said, studying the readings. Body temperature is well below what seems to be their normal range. Respiratory system shows signs of stress from low oxygen. We need to warm him gradually and get his oxygen levels stabilized. For the next hour, Hayes and her team worked to save the alien's life. They adjusted environmental controls to match what little they knew of coalition biology, administered carefully calculated treatments, and monitored every change in his condition. On the bridge, Captain Wilson received regular updates from the medical bay. Sir, Rivera said, Earth Command has responded to our situation report. They're not happy about our detour. Wilson had expected this. What specifically are they unhappy about, number one? They cite 3 direct violations of mission parameters and a potential diplomatic incident with the coalition, Rivera replied. They've ordered us to return to our patrol route immediately. Wilson looked at the view screen, where the small coalition vessel still floated, dark and powerless. And the survivor? They say to leave him on his ship with emergency supplies until a coalition vessel can be dispatched, Rivera said, her voice tight with disapproval. Wilson stood from his chair. That would be a death sentence, and they know it. He shook his head. Wait and tell Earth Command that we've already taken the survivor aboard for medical treatment. as required by galactic rescue protocols and basic human decency. We will complete our rescue operation before returning to patrol. Sir, that's directly disobeying. I know what it is, number one. Wilson interrupted calmly. Note my decision in the log. I take full responsibility. Back in the medical bay, Dr. Hayes noticed the alien's vital signs beginning to stabilize. His breathing became more regular and his body temperature was slowly rising to safer levels. Doctor, Lynn called. I think he's regaining consciousness. Hayes moved quickly to the alien's side. The coalition officer's eyes fluttered open, large, black eyes that blinked slowly as they tried to focus. He looked around in obvious confusion, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings and the human faces watching him. You're safe, Hayes said, speaking clearly and calmly. We found your ship adrift. You're aboard the Earth vessel Defender. We're providing medical care. The alien stared at her, clearly struggling to understand what had happened. When he finally spoke, his voice was weak and raspy, but the ship's translation system captured his words. Why? Why did you come for me? The simple question hung in the air. To the Coalition, with their strict protocols about deep space rescue, the humans' actions made no logical sense. The resources, the risk, the diplomatic complications, all for a single life. Hayes looked into those alien eyes and gave the only answer that mattered. Because you needed help, she said. And that's what humans do. 3 days had passed since the rescue. Officer Threll, now recovering in the Defender's medical bay, watched the humans with a mixture of curiosity and confusion. These creatures, considered primitive by Coalition standards, had saved his life when his own people had left him to die. Dr. Hayes entered the medical bay carrying a tablet. How are you feeling today? She asked, checking his vital signs on the monitor. Better, Threll replied. His translator device, repaired by the ship's engineers, converted his words to English. Your treatments are effective despite your limited knowledge of my species. Hayes smiled. We're good at adapting. It's a human trait. Threll nodded slowly. The concept of adaptation was known in Coalition science, of course, but not particularly valued. Stability and predictability were the Coalition's highest goals. May I ask why your ship was alone in that sector? Hayes asked as she adjusted his medication. Threll hesitated. Coalition protocols were strict about sharing information with less advanced species, but these humans had saved him when his own people abandoned him to die. He owed them something. I was on a mapping mission, he explained. The Coalition sends scout ships to chart unexplored regions. It is considered essential but expendable work. Expendable? Hayes frowned. Yes. The Coalition calculates resource allocation carefully. Deep space scouts understand that rescue operations are not approved if difficulties arise beyond certain boundaries. Threll's large eyes studied her reaction. It is simply mathematics. Hayes looked troubled by this explanation. But before she could respond, Captain Wilson entered the medical bay. Doctor, how's our guest doing? He asked. Recovering well, Hayes replied. Captain, this is Officer Threll of the Coalition Scout Division. Wilson approached Threll's bed. Good to see you awake, officer. I'm Captain Mark Wilson of the United Earth Ship Defender. You have my gratitude, Captain, Threll said formally, though I do not understand why you diverted your vessel to save me. Wilson seemed surprised by the question. Because you needed help. That's reason enough. At significant cost to your mission and possible diplomatic complications, Threll noted. The calculation does not balance. Wilson smiled slightly. Humans don't always make decisions based on calculations. Later that day, Engineer Rodriguez entered the captain's ready room, carrying a data tablet. Wilson looked up from his desk. You wanted to see me, Rodriguez? Yes, sir. I've completed the analysis of the data we recovered from the Coalition scout ship. Rodriguez placed the tablet on the desk. There's something you should see. Wilson picked up the tablet and studied the display. His expression grew increasingly troubled as he swiped through the information. Are you certain about this? He asked. Rodriguez nodded. The data is intact, sir. Once we connected our power supply, we were able to recover almost everything from their systems. Wilson leaned back in his chair. Get Officer Threll up here. I think we need to have a conversation. 30 minutes later, Threll sat across from Wilson in the ready room. First Officer Rivera stood nearby, her face showing carefully controlled anger. Officer Threll, Wilson began, we've analyzed the navigation data from your ship. According to this information, you weren't in unexplored space at all. You were actually in a sector that has been well mapped by several species, including humans. Threll's face showed genuine surprise. That's not possible. My mission orders were clear. Chart unexplored Sector 87 Delta. Wilson slid the tablet across the desk. Look at these star charts. This is the actual location where we found you compared to official coalition maps. Threll studied the screen, his fingers moving across the display. This can't be right. According to this, I was in Sector 42 Beta, not 87 Delta. He looked up at Wilson. But that would mean that you were given false coordinates, Rivera finished for him. Sent to a sector that your leaders knew was already mapped, but labeled as unexplored in your orders. And there's more, Wilson said quietly. We found records of 17 other coalition scout missions to supposedly unexplored sectors over the past Earth year. All of them list the scouts as lost in service. Threll's hands trembled slightly as he set down the tablet. I don't understand. Why would the coalition send scouts to already mapped regions and claim they were unexplored? Wilson and Rivera exchanged glances. We have a theory, Wilson said. These falsely labeled unexplored sectors form a pattern. They create a buffer zone around regions of space where human ships operate. By declaring these areas dangerous and unexplored, the coalition keeps their regular vessels away. And by sending expendable scouts who are not expected to return, they maintain the fiction that these are dangerous unmapped regions, Threll finished, his voice hollow with realization. But why? Rivera stepped forward. We believe they're deliberately keeping coalition citizens away from human space. Your leaders don't want their people to have contact with us. That's not all, Rodriguez added from the doorway. With your permission, Captain? At Wilson's nod, the engineer entered and took the tablet. He brought up new information on the screen. The power surge that damaged your ship wasn't an accident, Rodriguez explained to Threll. Your ship's systems were designed to fail after a certain period in these sectors. We found a hidden program in your main computer core. Threll stared at the evidence on the screen. His entire career, his loyal service to the coalition, the friends he had lost on similar missions, all of it had been built on lies. My people, he began, his voice unsteady. We're taught that humans are primitive, dangerous, barely evolved from animals, that your technology is crude and your society chaotic. He looked around the advanced ship, at the humans who had risked everything to save him. None of that appears to be true. The coalition has been lying to its people about us, Wilson said gently, and they've been sacrificing scouts like you to maintain those lies. Threll sat in silence for a long moment, processing this devastating truth. When he finally spoke, his voice was firm despite his obvious emotional turmoil. Captain Wilson, I need to see all the evidence you've gathered, and then I need to decide what to do with it. Wilson nodded solemnly. Take all the time you need, Officer Threll. You're safe here. As Threll left with Rodriguez to examine the full data, Wilson turned to Rivera. This just got a lot more complicated than a simple rescue mission, he said quietly. Rivera's expression was grim. Sir, if the coalition discovers that we've exposed their deception to one of their officers, I know, Wilson replied. But we couldn't just leave him out there to die, and we can't hide the truth from him now. So what do we do? Rivera asked. Wilson looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. We let Officer Threll make his own choice, and then we stand by him, whatever he decides. Officer Threll stood before the main view screen on the Defender's bridge, watching as a coalition diplomatic vessel approached. After a week aboard the human warship, His strength had fully returned, but his mind remained troubled. The evidence the humans had shown him was undeniable. The Coalition had been sacrificing scouts like him to maintain a wall of lies between their people and humanity. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Parker reported from the communication station. Captain Wilson nodded. On screen, the view screen changed to show a stern-faced Coalition official. High Commander Vex's expression didn't change when he spotted Threll standing among the humans. "Captain Wilson of Earth," Vex said coldly. "You have interfered in Coalition operations and taken one of our officers aboard your vessel without authorization. This is a serious diplomatic violation." Wilson stepped forward. "High Commander, we responded to a distress signal and rescued a dying officer who had been abandoned by his own people. Under galactic rescue protocols which the Coalition signed, we were obligated to render aid." Vex's eyes narrowed. Officer Threll was on a classified mission in unexplored space. He understood the risks. "We demand his immediate return, along with his vessel and all data recovered." Threll felt anger rising within him. A week ago, he would have accepted Vex's words without question. Now he knew better. "Commander Vex," Threll said, stepping forward. "I was not in unexplored space. According to verified star charts, I was in Sector 42 Beta, a well-mapped region that borders human territory." A flash of concern crossed Vex's face before his expression hardened again. "You are confused from your ordeal, officer. Return to Coalition custody and all will be explained." "I've seen the evidence," Threll continued. "My ship was programmed to fail, just like the 17 other scout ships sent to the same regions in the past year. All those officers, my friends, deliberately sacrificed." Vex's voice became dangerous. "Officer Threll, you are speaking of classified matters to outsiders. This is treason against the Coalition." Captain Wilson moved to stand beside Threll. "High Commander, we're sending you a data package. It contains everything we've discovered about the Coalition's deception program. We've already transmitted copies to the Galactic Assembly and several independent worlds." Vex's face paled. "You have no right." "Actually, we do," Wilson interrupted. "The intentional sacrifice of personnel and falsification of navigation data violates 6 different galactic treaties that the Coalition has signed. The Assembly has already called for an emergency session." The bridge fell silent as Vex processed this information. When he spoke again, his voice was cold with fury. "Officer Threll, for the final time, I order you to return to Coalition custody." Threll looked at the human crew around him, people who had risked their careers and lives to save a stranger from another species. Then he looked back at Vex, representing the civilization that had raised him, trained him, and then sent him to die for a lie. "I request asylum with the humans," Threll said firmly, "and I formally request to testify before the Galactic Assembly about Coalition practices." Vex's face contorted with rage. "You betray your entire species for these primitives. You are now an enemy of the Coalition." The transmission cut off abruptly. Captain Wilson turned to Threll. "Are you sure about this? They'll never take you back." Threll nodded slowly. "My life was already forfeit in their calculations. At least this way my death will have meaning." "Who said anything about dying?" Wilson asked with a smile. "You're under Earth's protection now." 2 weeks later, Threll stood before the Galactic Assembly on the neutral world of Centris. Representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations listened as he presented the evidence of the Coalition's systematic sacrifice of scouts and deliberate isolation of their citizens from human contact. "The Coalition leadership has maintained power through deception," Threll explained to the Assembly. "They teach that humans and other younger species are primitive and dangerous, while secretly eliminating anyone who might discover the truth. They sent me and many others to die alone in space, rather than risk their lives being exposed." The Coalition representatives objected repeatedly, but the evidence was too thorough to dismiss. When Threll finished his testimony, the chamber erupted in heated discussion. Captain Wilson and Dr. Hayes waited for him outside the assembly chamber. "How do you feel?" Hayes asked as Threll emerged. "Strange," Threll admitted. "I have spoken against everything I was raised to believe in, yet I feel lighter." Wilson nodded in understanding. That's how the truth works sometimes. A messenger approached them. The assembly has reached a preliminary decision. They're requesting your presence. Back inside the chamber, the assembly leader, a tall, willowy being from an ancient civilization, addressed the gathering. Based on the evidence presented, the assembly finds that the coalition has violated multiple treaties and galactic laws. Sanctions will be imposed until reforms are implemented. Additionally, all coalition territories bordering human space will be placed under neutral observation. The coalition delegation sat in stony silence as the leader continued. Furthermore, any coalition citizens who wish to learn about or contact other species, including humans, will be granted protection under assembly law. In the days that followed, news of the assembly's decision spread throughout coalition space. Despite government attempts to suppress the information, the truth reached many worlds. Thousands of coalition citizens, long curious about the supposedly primitive humans, began requesting contact or even passage to human space. On the Defender's observation deck, Threll watched the stars as the ship prepared to return to Earth. Captain Wilson joined him. "The coalition representatives are still demanding your return," Wilson said. "But the Assembly has formally granted your asylum request. You're officially under Earth's protection. What happens now?" Threll asked. "That's up to you," Wilson replied. "Earthfleet has offered you a position as a cultural liaison. Your knowledge would be invaluable as more coalition citizens make contact with us." Threll considered this. "A week ago I believed I would die alone in space, faithful to the end to a government that had already written me off as an acceptable loss." He turned to face Wilson. "Now I have the chance to build bridges between our peoples, to replace lies with understanding." "It won't be easy," Wilson warned. "The coalition leadership won't give up their power without a fight." "No," Threll agreed. "But they've already lost their most powerful weapon, isolation. Once people see the truth with their own eyes, they can never go back to believing the lies." As the Defender set course for Earth, reports came in from across the galaxy. Coalition border patrols were standing down. Coalition citizens were requesting information about humans and other species. Coalition scholars were sharing long-hidden research. A revolution had begun, not with weapons or violence, but with something far more powerful: the simple human belief that no one should be left to die alone in the darkness of space. The large screen in Mission Control showed a strange object moving toward Earth. General Harris stood with his arms crossed, watching the dot blink on the radar. "What do we know about it?" he asked. "Not much, sir," answered Tom, the head scientist. "It's big, it's fast, and it's definitely not one of ours." For 3 days, the strange ship had been coming closer to Earth. World leaders met in secret. They decided to send a welcome team to meet the visitors. Captain Jack Miller was chosen to lead this team. He was calm under pressure and had a way with words. His ship, the UES Horizon, was Earth's newest and best spacecraft. "Remember," Miller told his crew as they prepared to leave Earth, "we represent all humans today. Let's make a good first impression." The Horizon left Earth's orbit and headed toward the alien ship. Miller felt both excited and afraid. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Captain, they're sending us a message," said Linda, the communications officer. On the main screen, a face appeared. It had gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible nose. The alien spoke, and the computer translated. "Greetings, Earth beings. We are the Dreth. We come from far away and wish to talk with you." Miller stepped forward. "I am Captain Jack Miller of Earth. We welcome you and offer friendship." The alien, who called himself Commander Vex, smiled. At least, Miller thought, it was a smile. "Please, Captain, bring a small team and visit our ship. We have much to discuss." Miller chose 5 crew members to go with him: Linda for communications, Sam the security chief, Dr. Roberts the scientist, and 2 guards named Pete and Mark. They took a small shuttle to the Dreth ship. The inside of the alien ship was impressive. It was much more advanced than anything humans had built. The walls seemed to be alive. changing colors as they walked past. Commander Vex led them to a large room with a round table. "Please sit. We will talk about trade, knowledge sharing, and how our peoples can help each other." For 2 hours the meeting went well. The Dreth seemed friendly and open. They shared information about their star systems and asked many questions about Earth. "Your planet is beautiful," said Vex. "So full of water and life, so different from our dry homeworld." Miller began to relax. This was going better than anyone had hoped. Maybe this was the start of a great friendship between two species. Then everything changed. As Miller was looking at some star maps Vex had shown him, he heard a strange sound. He turned to see Sam fall to the floor, a smoking hole in his chest. The other Dreth in the room had pulled out weapons and were shooting at the humans. "Run!" Miller shouted, grabbing Linda's arm and pulling her behind a column. The room became chaos. Mark died instantly. Pete managed to shoot one of the Dreth before being hit himself. Dr. Roberts was nowhere to be seen. "Why are they doing this?" Linda cried as they hid. Miller didn't answer. He was looking for a way out. There was a door at the far end of the room, but they would have to cross open space to reach it. "When I say go, run for that door," he whispered. Miller pulled out his pistol and fired at the Dreth, creating a distraction. "Go!" They ran, bullets flying past them. They reached the door and found themselves in a hallway. To their surprise, Dr. Roberts was there, hiding in a small room. "This way," he said. "I think I found where they keep their smaller ships." The three humans moved through the alien ship, hiding whenever they heard Dreth approaching. Finally, they reached a bay with several small ships. "Can you fly one of these?" Miller asked Roberts. "I think so. The controls are strange but follow basic physics." They climbed into one of the small ships. Roberts studied the control panel while Miller and Linda watched for Dreth. "I think I've got it," Roberts said after a few minutes. The ship hummed to life. The bay doors were closed, but Roberts found the weapon controls. A blast from the ship's guns blew a hole in the bay doors, and they flew out into space. "Head for the horizon," Miller ordered. Behind them, the Dreth ship was turning, preparing to attack. The small ship barely reached the horizon before the first shots hit. "Emergency takeoff," Miller shouted as they ran onto the bridge. "Get us back to Earth now!" The horizon pulled away, engines at full power. The Dreth ship followed, firing weapons that the horizon barely avoided. "Send a message to Earth," Miller told Linda. "Tell them we're under attack and need help." The horizon raced toward Earth with the Dreth ship following close behind. Other Dreth ships appeared from nowhere, heading straight for Earth. "They were never here for peace," Miller said, watching the alien fleet grow larger on the screen. "This was planned all along." When they reached Earth, they found battles already starting. The Dreth had attacked the moon base and the space stations. Earth's small defense fleet was fighting back, but they were outmatched. Miller's ship landed at the emergency command center. General Harris was waiting. "Tell me everything," he said as soon as Miller stepped off the ship. After Miller explained what had happened, the general's face grew dark. "So it's war they want," he said. "They think we're weak and easy to defeat." He looked up at the sky where flashes of battle could be seen even in daylight. "They picked the wrong planet to attack," he said. "They have no idea what humans can do when we're fighting for our survival." The first day of the war had begun. Earth was under attack, but its people would not go quietly. The Dreth would soon learn they had made a terrible mistake. The Dreth ships hung in Earth's orbit like dark clouds before a storm. For 3 days they had attacked Earth's space stations and moon bases. Smoke rose from cities where their smaller ships had bombed key targets. In the underground military base beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Ben Stone watched the battle maps with a grim face. He had lost many good people already, but now it was time to show humanity's true power. "They think they know what we can do," he said to the room full of military leaders from around the world. "They've only seen our public space force. It's time to reveal what we've been hiding." For 50 years, Earth's nations had secretly prepared for this day. While the public saw only small steps into space, behind the scenes, a hidden fleet was built. Ships with technology that even most government officials didn't know existed. Dr. Lisa Reed stood up at the meeting. Her gray hair was tied back tightly, and her eyes showed both worry and determination. "The Dreth scanned our planet before attacking," she explained. "They saw what we wanted them to see. They have no idea about Program Titan." On the large screen, she showed images of massive ships hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. Other bases were buried deep under the surface of the Moon, and some were even hidden beneath Earth's oceans. "Our scientists have been studying alien technology since the Roswell crash," Dr. Reed continued. "We reversed engineered what we found and made it better. We've been ready for this moment for decades." General Harris, who had barely slept since the first attack, looked up. "How long until we can fight back?" "The hidden fleet is ready now," Admiral Stone answered. "We were waiting for the right moment. The Dreth think they're winning. They've grown confident. That's when we strike." While the leaders talked, ordinary people around the world were showing extraordinary courage. When Dreth forces landed near the city of Denver, they expected easy victory. Instead, they met fierce resistance, not just from soldiers but from everyday citizens who refused to surrender. In space, small Earth ships seemed to run away from battles, but they were really leading Dreth vessels into traps. Hidden weapon platforms activated when enemy ships passed by, causing unexpected damage to the alien fleet. Commander Vex watched from his main ship as reports came in of growing Earth resistance. He had been told humans were physically weak and had only basic space technology. Something wasn't right. "They are more organized than our reports suggested," he told his officers. "But it doesn't matter. We have conquered 12 worlds before this one. Earth will fall like all the others." Back on Earth, Admiral Stone gave the order everyone had been waiting for. "Activate Protocol Omega." Around the solar system, hidden bases came to life. Ships emerged from secret locations. On the dark side of the Moon, doors opened in the surface, revealing launch bays filled with fighters. Deep in the asteroid belt, what looked like ordinary rocks split open, showing fully armed battleships inside. Tom Wilson was the chief engineer on the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet, the EDS Defender. At 45, he had spent his entire career working on the ship without ever seeing it leave its secret dock inside the Moon. "All systems are ready, Captain," he reported. "The new shields are at full power. Weapons are hot." Captain Alex Rivera nodded. He was younger than most would expect for such an important command, but he had trained his whole life for this moment. "Launch all ships," he ordered. "Let's show these Dreth who they're really dealing with." Across the solar system, Earth's true military power revealed itself. Over 200 major warships and thousands of fighters joined the battle at once. The Dreth, who thought they were facing only the few dozen ships they had seen so far, were caught completely by surprise. On his command ship, Commander Vex watched in shock as new human ships appeared on his screens. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. "How did we miss them?" His science officer looked frightened. "They must have been hiding, Commander. Our scans showed nothing like this. They tricked us," Vex realized. "They let us think they were weak." The tide of battle turned quickly. Earth ships used technology the Dreth had never seen before. Their shields could withstand Dreth weapons much better than expected, and their own weapons caused serious damage to alien ships. What impressed the Dreth most was human tactics. Earth's fleet didn't fight like newcomers to space battle. They fought like warriors who had studied war for centuries. They used the gravity of planets to increase speed, coordinated attacks with perfect timing, and seemed to know exactly where to hit Dreth ships to cause the most damage. After 6 hours of the counterattack, the Dreth had lost 27 ships. They had to retreat farther from Earth to regroup. In the command center, Admiral Stone allowed himself a small smile as he watched the Dreth pull back. "This is just the beginning," he told his staff. "They now know we aren't as weak as they thought, but they haven't seen our full strength yet." Dr. Reed joined him at the battle map. "The captured Dreth soldiers are providing valuable information. We've learned they have a strict hierarchy and can't adapt quickly to new situations. That's a weakness we can use." Stone nodded. "They attacked us thinking we would be an easy victory. They wanted our water and minerals. Now they're learning that humanity doesn't surrender, and we've been preparing for this day for a very long time." Outside the window of the command center, people worked with energy and purpose. The Dreth had united humanity like nothing before. Old enemies now fought side by side. Every person had a job to do, and Earth's hidden strength was finally revealed. The real war had just begun. 6 months had passed since the Dreth first attacked Earth. What they had thought would be a quick victory had turned into a long and difficult war. Now, it was time for humans to take the fight to the enemy. Captain Alex Rivera stood on the bridge of the EDS Defender, looking at the fleet of Earth ships gathered around him. There were over 300 vessels ready for the first major human offensive against the Dreth. Some were large battleships. Others were small, fast attack craft. All of them had been upgraded with new technology. "Status report," Rivera said, to his crew. "All ships report ready, Captain," answered his first officer, Mike. "Engineer Wilson has finished installing the new weapon systems on every vessel." Tom Wilson had become a hero in the months since the war began. He had studied the Dreth technology from captured ships and found ways to improve Earth's weapons. The engineer worked day and night, sleeping only a few hours before returning to his workshop. "The Dreth shields can't stop our new plasma cannons," Wilson had explained to Admiral Stone, "and I've found a way to make our own shields stronger." Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main screen of the Defender. "Captain Rivera, is your fleet ready?" "Yes, Admiral. All ships are in position." "Then Operation Thunderbolt is a go." "May God be with you all." Rivera turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for the Dreth forward base on Mars. Maximum speed." The Earth fleet moved as one toward Mars, where the Dreth had established their main base in the solar system. The aliens had taken control of the human colonies there and turned them into staging areas for attacks on Earth. On her ship, the EDS Valiant, Dr. Lisa Reed watched the approaching battle with both excitement and fear. She wasn't a military person, but her knowledge of alien biology had become too important to leave behind. "Doctor, we're receiving the final scans of the Dreth base," said her assistant. Reed studied the data. "There are over 50 Dreth ships there, plus ground forces. This won't be easy." The Dreth had become more careful since the first battles. They had learned that humans were dangerous enemies who fought with unexpected skill and determination, but they still believed their technology was superior. Commander Vex stood in his command center on Mars, looking at reports from his scouts. "The humans are coming with a large fleet," he told his officers. "They think they can take back this planet. We will show them how wrong they are." What Vex didn't know was that humans had already infiltrated his base. Major Kate Wright and her Special Forces team had landed on Mars weeks ago, disguised as Dreth supply workers. They had planted explosives throughout the base and gathered critical information about Dreth defenses. As the Earth fleet approached Mars, Wright activated her communicator. "This is Falcon Team to Defender. We are in position and ready." Rivera smiled when he heard the message. "Tell Falcon Team to execute in exactly 10 minutes. All ships prepare for battle." The Earth fleet suddenly split into 3 groups. One headed straight for the Dreth base as a distraction. Another moved to block any Dreth ships trying to escape. The third, led by Rivera, took a longer route to attack from behind. Inside the Dreth base, Wright looked at her watch. 3, 2, 1, now." Explosions rocked the base as the hidden bombs went off. Dreth soldiers ran in confusion. Defensive. Systems failed. Communication towers collapsed. At the same moment, the Earth fleet attacked. The Dreth ships tried to form a defense, but they were caught by surprise. The new plasma cannons tore through their shields. Earth fighters swarmed around the larger Dreth vessels, targeting their weak points. On the Defender, Rivera watched the battle unfold. "Press the attack. Don't give them time to regroup." The Dreth fought back hard. They had more experience in space battles than humans and still had powerful weapons. Several Earthships exploded under heavy fire. For 3 hours, the battle raged around Mars. The red planet glowed with the light of explosions. Earth forces pushed forward, while the Dreth struggled to maintain their position. Commander Vex realized his base was lost. "Prepare my command ship. We must retreat and warn the homeworld." As Vex tried to escape, Rivera saw his chance. "All ships, focus fire on the Dreth command vessel." The Earth fleet turned their weapons on Vex's ship. Its shields failed under the combined attack. Before it could jump to safety, the defender moved in close. "Launch boarding parties," Rivera ordered. "I want that ship captured, not destroyed." Earth Marines in heavy armor cut their way into the Dreth command ship. They fought through corridors, room by room, against fierce resistance. Finally, they reached the bridge. Commander Vex was captured alive, along with several high-ranking Dreth officers. The ship's computers were intact, containing valuable information about Dreth technology and plans. Back on Earth, Admiral Stone received the news of victory with a solemn nod. The battle had been won, but at a high cost. 17 Earth ships had been destroyed, with thousands of brave men and women lost. Dr. Reed worked day and night studying the captured Dreth. She made an important discovery. The aliens had a weakness in their breathing system. They couldn't handle certain gases that were harmless to humans. "This could be the key to winning the war," she told Admiral Stone. "We can develop weapons that target this weakness." Stone looked at the star map showing Dreth territory. "It's time to take the fight to them. They came to our home and attacked us without mercy. Now they will learn what happens when you make an enemy of humanity." The first major human victory had been achieved. Mars was free again. The captured Dreth command ship would provide technology to make Earth's fleet even stronger. And the intelligence gained from prisoners would help plan the next phase of the war. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. Now, it was ready to strike back. The massive Earth fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system. Over 500 ships, from small fighters to huge battleships, prepared for the most daring mission in human history, the invasion of Dreth space. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship, the EDS Avenger. This ship was Earth's newest and most powerful weapon, built using technology taken from captured Dreth vessels. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said the communications officer. Stone nodded. "Then it's time. Send the final message to Earth." Back on Earth, people gathered around screens to hear the Admiral's words. "Today, humanity takes the fight to those who attacked us without cause or mercy. We go not just to win a war, but to free other species who suffer under Dreth rule. We go to show the galaxy that Earth stands for justice." On the Avenger, Major Kate Wright checked her team's equipment one last time. Her Special Forces unit had trained for months for this mission. They would be the first humans to set foot on the Dreth homeworld. "Ready, Major?" asked her second-in-command, Rob. "As ready as we'll ever be," she answered. "Let's make Earth proud." Tom Wilson rushed into the room carrying what looked like small gas masks. "These are ready just in time," he said, handing them out. "They'll protect you from any harmful gases but still allow you to use Dr. Reed's special weapon." The special weapon was a gas that affected the Dreth breathing system. It wouldn't kill them, but would make them weak and confused for several hours. Captain Rivera entered the bridge of his ship, the Defender. "Jump drives ready?" "Yes, Captain," his navigation officer replied. "Coordinates are set for the Dreth system. All ships report jump capability functioning." Rivera took a deep breath. The jump drive was new technology, developed from studying Dreth ships. It would allow the fleet to travel vast distances almost instantly. This would be its first major test. "This is Captain Rivera to all ships. Prepare for jump in 3, 2, 1. Now!" A bright flash of light surrounded each ship. For a moment, the crews felt like they were being stretched and compressed at the same time. Then suddenly, they were in a new star system, looking at planets they had only seen in scans before. "Jump successful," reported the navigator. "All ships present and accounted for." The Dreth had no warning. They never imagined humans could reach their home system so quickly. Before they could organize a defense, Earth ships were attacking military bases on the outer planets. Major Wright and her team boarded a stealth transport. While the main fleet engaged Dreth forces, they would slip through to the homeworld on a critical mission. As the battle began, Earth forces made a surprising discovery. Several ships approached that were clearly not Dreth design. Hold fire on those vessels, Rivera ordered. They're trying to communicate. A face appeared on the screen, a being with blue skin and 4 eyes. It spoke in broken English. We are Trell. We fight Dreth too. They take our world long ago. You help us? Admiral Stone quickly agreed to an alliance. The Trell weren't the only ones. As the battle continued, 2 other enslaved species joined the humans. The Dreth had many enemies among those they had conquered. Major Wright's transport reached the Dreth homeworld under cover of the battle. Her team landed in a remote area and made their way toward the capital city. According to intelligence, their central command is in that large building, Wright told her team, pointing to a towering structure in the center of the city. The special forces moved silently through streets filled with panicked Dreth civilians. They weren't there to harm ordinary people. Their target was the Dreth High Command, the leaders who had ordered the attack on Earth. Inside the Central Command building, the Dreth leaders watched in horror as their fleet was being defeated. Reports were coming in of rebellions on 3 conquered planets. Everything was falling apart. How did they find us so quickly? Demanded the High Commander. How did they get this technology? No one had an answer. The Dreth had always believed themselves superior to all other species. They never expected any of their victims to fight back so effectively. Major Wright's team reached the Central Command room. Using their special gas weapons, they quickly neutralized the guards without killing them. When they burst into the command center, the Dreth leaders were too shocked to resist. In the name of Earth and all the worlds you've attacked, you are now prisoners of war, Wright announced. While Wright secured the Dreth leadership, Admiral Stone led the space battle. The combined forces of humans and the formerly enslaved species overwhelmed the Dreth fleet. Ship after ship surrendered or was destroyed. Captain Rivera received an emergency message. A single Dreth battleship had broken away from the battle and was heading toward Earth at high speed. They're making a suicide run, Rivera realized. They have a planet-killer weapon on board. The Defender gave chase, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. They caught the Dreth ship halfway to Earth. After a fierce battle, Rivera's crew managed to disable it. When boarding parties entered the Dreth vessel, they found the planet-killer weapon, a device capable of causing Earth's sun to go supernova. The Dreth were willing to destroy an entire star system rather than accept defeat. Back on the Dreth homeworld, Major Wright discovered files showing the real reason for the attack on Earth. The Dreth leaders had observed humans for decades and became afraid, not of what humans were, but of what they might become. They saw our potential, Wright told Admiral Stone via communication link. They saw how quickly we advanced and how adaptable we are. They attacked us because they were afraid we would someday surpass them. Admiral Stone looked out at the stars from his ship's bridge. Then their worst fear has come true. We have surpassed them, not just in technology, but in spirit. We fight not just for ourselves, but for freedom everywhere. The war wasn't over, but a major victory had been won. Humanity had taken the fight into enemy space and succeeded beyond all expectations. The Dreth Empire was crumbling, and a new alliance of free worlds was beginning to form. The war had lasted 18 months. What began as an unprovoked attack on Earth had turned into the greatest challenge the Dreth Empire had ever faced. Now, the final battle was about to begin. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Avenger, looking at the tactical display. The remaining Dreth forces had gathered at their last stronghold, a massive space station orbiting their homeworld. The combined fleet of Earth and its new allies surrounded them, cutting off all escape routes. "Send the message," Stone ordered. The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Stone spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Admiral Ben Stone, of Earth. Your empire has fallen. Your conquered worlds are free. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally." On the Dreth command station, the remaining leaders argued bitterly. Their once mighty empire had crumbled in less than 2 years. 12 conquered species had joined the humans in rebellion, and Dreth ships were being defeated everywhere. "We must fight to the last warrior," insisted War Commander Tull. Surrender is not in our history. Our history will end today if we don't surrender, argued another leader. The humans have shown they will accept our surrender. They don't seek to destroy our entire species. They are weak then, Tull growled. If we had won, we would have shown no such mercy. After heated debate, Tull seized control. He executed those who argued for peace and prepared his forces for a final, desperate battle. When the hour passed with no response, Stone sighed. They've made their choice. All ships, prepare for battle. The Earth fleet had grown powerful. Technology from the Dreth had been combined with human innovation to create weapons and shields far superior to what either species had before. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, led by Captain Rivera on the Defender. All weapons ready, Rivera reported. Special teams standing by. The special teams were groups like Major Wright's forces, who would board the Dreth station, if necessary. Dr. Reed had developed new versions of the gas that weakened Dreth soldiers without killing them. Earth wanted victory, but not genocide. The final battle began with a massive exchange of fire. The Dreth fought with the desperation of those who know they cannot win but refuse to surrender. Their weapons tore through space, destroying several Earth and Allied ships. Captain Jack Miller, who had survived the first Dreth attack 18 months ago, now commanded the battleship Retribution. He had waited a long time for this moment. Target their main weapons array, he ordered. Fire when ready. The Retribution's advanced plasma cannons cut through the Dreth station's shields. Other Earth ships followed, focusing their fire on key defensive systems. Meanwhile, smaller, faster vessels moved in close, dropping shield disruptors. Devices engineered by Tom Wilson to create holes in the Dreth defenses. From his command center, War Commander Tull watched as his defenses failed one by one. Prepare the dimensional weapon, he ordered. His science officer looked shocked. But Commander, that weapon is untested. It could tear apart space itself. Better that than surrender, Tull snarled. On the Avenger, Dr. Reed detected a massive energy buildup on the Dreth station. Admiral, they're powering something we've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts. All ships, pull back, Stone commanded. Major Wright, your team needs to get on that station now and stop whatever they're doing. Wright and her special forces launched from the nearest ship. Using the confusion of battle as cover, they reached an airlock on the Dreth station. Fighting their way inside, they moved quickly toward the energy source. There, Wright pointed at a massive device pulsing with blue light. That must be it. Her team's explosives expert studied it. This thing could rip a hole between dimensions. It would destroy everything for light years around. Wright set charges while her team held off Dreth soldiers. We've got 5 minutes to get clear, she said as they finished. Move. As they fought their way back to their ship, Wright's team encountered War Commander Tull himself, surrounded by elite guards. You won't stop what's coming, human, Tull said, raising his weapon. A fierce firefight erupted in the corridor. Wright's team used their gas weapons, but Tull wore a protective mask. Several of Wright's soldiers fell, but they managed to break through and reach their ship just as the charges detonated. The explosion rocked the station. The dimensional weapon overloaded and collapsed in on itself, creating a small, contained, black hole that destroyed the center of the station before disappearing. With their weapon destroyed and their station falling apart, the remaining Dreth finally surrendered. The war was over. 2 weeks later, representatives from Earth and all allied species gathered on the neutral planet Terrace for the signing of the peace treaty. Admiral Stone represented humanity, standing tall despite his exhaustion. Today marks the beginning of a new era, he said to the assembled delegates. The Dreth Empire is no more. In its place, we establish the Interstellar Republic, where all species have equal voice and equal rights. The former Dreth territories were freed, and the Dreth themselves were confined to their home system until they could prove they had abandoned their ways of conquest. Many believed this would take generations. Captain Miller, now an honored hero, stood by a window overlooking the beautiful planet below. Admiral Stone joined him. Thinking about how it all began? Stone asked. Miller nodded. When they first attacked, I never imagined it would end like this. I thought Earth might be destroyed, Instead, we've helped create something greater than we could have imagined, Stone said. An alliance of worlds working together. Do you think they understand now? Miller asked. Do you think the Dreth finally understand why they lost? Stone looked out at the stars. I think they're beginning to. They attacked us because they were afraid of what we might become. They didn't realize that by attacking us, they forced us to become exactly what they feared. Not conquerors, Miller said, but a species that would never surrender, never stop fighting for what's right. Exactly, Stone agreed. They attacked the wrong species. They thought we were weak because we valued peace. They didn't understand that the same spirit that makes us seek friendship with others is what makes us so dangerous when threatened. As ships from a dozen worlds moved peacefully through the sky above them, the two men watched in silence. The war had cost humanity dearly, but Earth had emerged stronger, wiser, and now part of something much larger than itself. The universe would never be the same again. And any species thinking of attacking Earth in the future would remember what happened to the Dreth. They would remember the day Earth's wrath was unbound.